I'm Amanda Henchliffe. I live in Belper in Derbyshire. I was diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension in 1988. I'm married and I have one son. My PH journey started, I suppose, when I was initially diagnosed back in 1988. It was an incidental finding by all accounts because I didn't have any symptoms. I was very, very well in myself in the middle of my nurse training. So it came as a bit of a shock when I was told that I did actually have another heart problem or heart and lung problem.
Amanda had been born with a co-optation of the aorta and had had that repaired at an early age. Since then, she'd had regular checkups, and it was at one of these appointments that PH was identified at a very early stage in the disease's progression.
No, I wasn't informed that this actually meant anything or that I could deteriorate. And it was after another consultation with the actual consultant when I had a chance to think about the implications of another diagnosis. And being in the nursing profession, I went to look at the medical library and find information out for myself. What did this diagnosis mean? And I was met with really, really poor statistics for being able to survive this condition.
Despite being advised that having a baby could kill her, in 1989 Amanda fell pregnant.
I went into heart failure quite early on in the pregnancy. I had to spend 12 weeks in hospital before I delivered, before I had my baby. And he was born naturally 8 weeks early. But we had a pregnancy, we both survived, and we're both, at the time, we were both fit and healthy. I recovered from the heart failure and life carried on until 1997. And in 1997, I'd been at work all day, went home, had my dinner, and felt this thump in my chest, and my heartbeat had just sped up and become very erratic. By midnight, I was in the coronary care unit, being cared for atrial fibrillation.
Following the diagnosis of atrial fibrillation, multiple trials with medication and electric shock treatment to try and correct it, all of which failed, her physical condition deteriorated greatly over the next 2 to 3 years.
I was really struggling to have any exercise at all, sometimes not even able to walk across the room, struggling to work. I had multiple admissions into hospital for heart failure. This caused problems at work, obviously distress to my family seeing me so poorly. And again, still wasn't offered any information about pulmonary hypertension, what it really was, how it really impacts on people's lives and what can be done about it apart from a heart and lung transplant.
I was quite worried. Again, we didn't know which way this was going to go. There was talk of transplants, heart and lung transplants. The outcome isn't very clear. It's a 50-50 chance from what I understand. We were looking at going onto the waiting list for that, so I was quite anxious for Amanda. We were both very frustrated again, not knowing what else was on option. As far as we were aware, it was the last chance really.
I started doing my own internet searches and discovered the PHA. And through finding them and speaking to people there, it was just as though somebody had opened the curtains to my life. I was put in touch with people at the Department of Health, specialist units that cared for people with rare diseases, and from there on I had to subtly request from my consultant to be referred to the specialist unit in order that some action could be taken, and this is in about year 2002.
Amanda's consultant granted her wish and she was referred to the Royal Hallamshire Hospital in Sheffield, one of 8 specialist PH centres across the UK.
Psychologically, I just felt relief. Somebody was actually taking note, somebody was listening. And at that point, because I was very symptomatic, somebody was saying, yes, this is why. Yes, this is why. And it was just as though a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. So because of the way they have to work, and obviously you can't recommend treatments without up-to-date information about a patient, I did go through a series of tests again for them to be able to confirm the diagnosis and hopefully offer treatment. They were very honest with me and said that because of problems as a baby, treatment might not be, or treatment options might not be as they would be for somebody with other forms of pulmonary hypertension, but they were hopeful that they could do something to help.
Amanda was prescribed one of the then new specialist treatments which provided relief from her symptoms, and although over time dosages have had to be altered as symptoms reappeared, she now has a quality of life that didn't seem possible 5 years ago.
Before the treatment, life was just a black hole. I didn't know if I was going to get through it. I didn't know what was through it. Emotionally, mentally, physically, I didn't know if I had a life. I didn't think I was going to live.